Hi, good afternoon, good morning, and good evening wherever you are in the world. Thanks for joining us at Project 1324 today. Specifically, we got Voodoo Val, Tim Mobes, Matthew Lechbach, sorry if I'm saying your names wrong, Med Wolverson, Jessica Castellito. Thank you so much. Again, apologies for saying your name wrong, but thank you for being here. I'm looking forward to introducing you to a few of our artists at Project 1324, and I'll be your host, Michelle Posadas. I work at Adobe on the Project 1324 team. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with Project 1324, it is a new initiative at Adobe with an emphasis for creatives between the ages of 13 to 24. But there is room for this community for people who are older than that, like, for example, becoming a mentor. It is a place to explore creative possibilities in filmmaking, drawing, photography, graphic design, and more. For example, you could enter a challenge to push the boundaries across opportunities like scholarships, fellowships, mentorships, and more, and we'll be talking more about that later. You can also try exercises to learn new skills and techniques and discover artwork from people like you around the world. We believe everyone is a creative and has a story to tell. Whether you're a novice or an expert, we welcome you to our growing community. So let's meet a few of them. I've had the pleasure to get to know these artists, and you're gonna think they're dope too, each having their own unique story and perspective in a variety of mediums. Our first person up is going to be Kayla Briette. Let me get her up here. So Kayla, I've known for almost 3 years now. She's a talented artist who explores filmmaking, VR, and music. She submitted to the Sundance Ignite Challenge and won. Come on out here, Kayla. Thank you so much. I'm just talking about you. That's cool.
Thank you so much.
So glad you're here. So you won the Sundance Ignite Film Challenge, which is a year-long fellowship for emerging narrative and documentary filmmakers. And this is just an example of the opportunity that we have for the Sundance Ignite Challenge. So welcome, you're back here again at Max. And I remember the last time, yeah, you're welcome. And the last time you were here, I remember you were on the Max stage with like Quentin Tarantino or something like that. And we were honoring you as a Sundance Ignite Fellow. How was that experience being on the Max stage?
It was incredible. I think it's just bewildering to think that over 14,000 people gather from around the world in one place to celebrate design and videography, photo work, and I just got to learn so much from everyone. Coming there, it really opened up my world to the possibilities of what I want to create in the future, so awesome. It was wonderful.
Awesome. Also, a lot of people on the chat pod are saying hi to you. They're saying, hey Kayla, like Cordo Bell,
hello,
Barris, also Barris again, so welcome.
Nice to meet you all.
Cool. So what I'm going to do is, we're glad to have you back here at Max and also to be here on Adobe Live. So let's dive right in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to play I'm going to play the beginning of your the submission to the Sundance Ignite Film Challenge. And I'd love for you to talk about what inspires you and your creative practice.
Yeah, well, when I think of creativity, I really think of communication. And for me, growing up, I was never one with my words. I was always very nervous and shy. I was always very hesitant to ask questions in class. And music was the first medium that I was able to fall in love with, where I felt like I could express myself fluidly and articulate my thoughts and observations of the world. And you know, I wanted to add on top of that soundscape and bring those images and bring those sounds to life through film. And so I started to layer film and photo on top of music to bring those worlds to life. And now I'm really interested in virtual reality to take that step of immersion one step further and bring people into those worlds and build them myself. So
awesome. That's great. Well, I'm a huge fan of your work and practice. What I was going to think about is maybe, could you share with us a recent project that you've been working on?
For sure. So I'd love to share some more about my music.
So I'll go on this side for you. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. With my music, I love to combine traditional instruments with contemporary elements of electronic music and just bringing people into worlds of song and dance. And recently I've been experimenting with virtual reality and sculpting.
That's so cool. Did you do that yourself? Is that like all created inside of so you have to have a headset to go inside that?
Right, with the HTC Vive headset, I've been creating illustrations using Tilt Brush, and this helps me sketch out, thank you so much. This helps me sketch out worlds that I create in my mind, and from that I became really fascinated with how we can archive objects that we cherish. So my latest project that I'm working on is called Trove. It's a virtual reality project that's all about the objects that we cherish. So I've been documenting objects that maybe we have been given to by a friend or a family member, and documenting the story behind them, so that when you enter this virtual reality space, you see objects all around you and you're able to pick them up, and that triggers the story behind them.
That's wonderful. I love that.
Thank
Can I
you.
ask you a quick question about that? So, in terms of being on this space, these are objects that you have meaning for you. So what do you experience? What do you think will happen for people who don't necessarily have the same memory to them? Like, what do you think that will experience be like for them?
Well, actually, these are objects that I've collected from different friends and relatives. These are some of the concepts, images. These are objects from all different types of people that I've met. And now, through the support of Sundance New Frontier, I've been able to direct my focus onto not just tangible objects, but now I'm focusing on the collective memory that's stored in music and song.
Oh, cool, awesome.
I'm really interested in how we pass down stories through music and melody, and how universal those languages are.
I also like that it seems like, just based on what I'm seeing right now, that they're objects that there's some universality around them. Like, people have association with jewelry, people have association with dolls and things like that. Yeah. Great. So, do you want to show us more about the collective projects that you're working on?
Oh, sure.
I know you have to skip through. You can skip. I know skip through a couple of slides.
Oh yeah, and so yeah, going back to Trove, I've been documenting objects from around the world, and diving more into virtual reality work, and through telling stories about my culture and my heritage, I've just unlocked how universal these themes are of finding home and finding what home means to all of us. And so I've been able to travel with documentary projects and collaborate musically with artists from different cultural backgrounds, and I've been learning so much.
Awesome. Well, let's see if we can get a couple of questions from the audience. We'll see some questions. They love the typeface, so mysterious, fancy sci-fi. I feel the same way in terms when you're showing the demo of the VR reality, so good. People said next level stuff.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Incorporating all the senses into your own world by Anel, and also Adobe's own
you,
dark
Anel.
universe. And Jan Eric also said, I like the little owl. Language and beautiful by Anel.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. So what I want to ask is, so right now we're looking at it on the screen, you can't see in 3D, but when is an opportunity that people could maybe be able to experience your VR experience? Is there a plan for that, or when would you like to do it if you don't have a plan for that right now?
Right, so I'll be working on my new direction of music and memory stored in melodies in VR, and I'll be able to exhibit that in the coming year. That's currently in development, and I've been really excited to document different melodies and the stories behind them, and create an immersive experience where you're able to play with melodies and touch and stretch out the visuals of the melodies and seeing the worlds that they represent. I'm really excited.
Yeah, awesome. I really look forward to hearing more about that happening, and also, like, if you follow us on Project 1324 on our different social media channels, we'll probably be able to tell people that you're doing these really cool projects and what's happening. If there's any questions from the audience, we're happy to take them. But everyone's saying really dope stuff about you. The music in the background was lit too. That was by...
Oh, thank you, Barris.
Barris?
Thank you, Barris.
Awesome. Do you want to talk more about how, I remember we talked yesterday and you were talking about what inspires you in terms of like creation stories and the origins of the universe, and like, can you talk more about that in terms of inspiring, in terms of like how that motivates you in your work?
Right, and so what we're looking at now is a traditional Taos Pueblo hoop dance, and when I look at this kind of dance, we see the symbolism of how each formation represents a beauty in the world, whether it's a tree, whether it's a star, or and you're rotating to represent the passage of time and the rotation of the earth around the sun. And those themes are so universal in many indigenous cultures around the world. And when I think of stories that I care about, I think of how, for myself, I have multiple facets of identity, and I feel like we're all on our own journeys to find out what our own identity is and what home means to us. So my art is a way to connect, to draw those connections between cultures that otherwise would seem very far away.
Absolutely.
From Chinese culture to Native American culture to Indonesian culture. So my art is a way to create those passageways, and through art I've been able to open my world up to other people's stories and seeing how they have been through their own journeys, so similar to that as well. How indigenous tribes in China and Japan and Scandinavia and New Zealand have been dealing with the same issues of preservation and preserving traditional stories, origin stories, creation stories as well, and passing those down. So when I think of art, I think of being able to create our own traditions, but also pass down knowledge.
Yeah, I love that. That's so awesome. I totally, like, you're saying that stuff makes me give goosebumps. I have those thoughts all the time because I'm so obsessed with like migration of people. And also that we're all individuals, even in just like, if like, you know, in one country, we're all individuals, even though there's some unifying culture around it, but also the threads that bind us, you know, in terms of like just pure like basic human needs and like trying to get them, and including also how do we answer what is life, where do we come from. So I really like that you're trying to figure out a way how to tell all those stories. We got a couple questions from the chat pod. Someone said, what app are you using? Like maybe you talk about what specific programs you use the most in your practice, especially around VR.
Yeah, so around VR, I use the HTC Vive with a PC, and to develop, I use Unity. To sketch out and draft my ideas in 3D, I use Google Tilt Brush.
Cool.
Yes.
Awesome. Another question that was here from Heidi Morrow, which is like, in what ways the Project 1324 has helped Kayla? One specifically is, of course, the Sundance Ignite Challenge, which you won, which was a year-long fellowship. Do you want to answer shortly how that experience was for you and how it has been for you?
So that was really incredible. The Sundance Ignite Challenge was really the first time I was inducted into a world of peers and mentorship. I was able to meet with mentors in film at the Sundance Film Festival,
yeah, it was so cool.
Which was incredible. I've never seen that much snow before either.
Who was your mentor?
My mentor was Kat Candler, who's an incredible director. She's currently directing episodes for Queen Sugar, a series, and she's just, I'm just surrounded by so many wonderful mentor figures and surrounded with peers that I've been growing with. Something that's really dear to me is investing in your community, investing in your friends, investing in the people who are immediately around you, seeing all the other fellows from this fellowship grow and take different paths through video, through photo, through documentary, through narrative. It's been so inspiring.
Yeah, it's an incredible community. I think every year there's 15 winners, so you are part of a class with 15 winners, and every consecutive there's 15 more. And the family just keeps growing, and Sundance Ignite does an incredible job of being able to bring you all together. I'm gonna, before we end, I want to shout out one more opportunity that Project 1324 has afforded Kayla. But since you won the Sundance Ignite Film Challenge, you were eligible and won the Adobe Creativity Scholarship, which is when Adobe supports creatives like you with $1 million a year for college tuition. In a few short words before we go, can you tell me how that's affected your life?
Well, that's been such a great support. For me, I've definitely taken an alternate pathway for my education. Out of high school, I went to community college to save money and pursue what I was passionate about in education, which was computer science as well as business.
Amazing.
Which is a uncanny combination, but it's so relevant for us as artists to combine both worlds together for our art to be sustainable. And you know, I never thought that I would be able to pursue my education, because coming out of high school I wasn't able to afford the big schools, and so knowing that, you know, I have the support from the community at Adobe, it really means the world, because it's not just the scholarship that's supporting me, it's being able to meet other creativity scholars that are going through the same issues of balancing, you know, what are we going to do with our future, balancing education with creating your own original art, and how to navigate that, finding harmony in your life. And so if there's anything that I've learned, it's to not be afraid to ask for what you need, and that big part of creativity is not just creating your own original work, but being able to pass that down. And so I've been learning so much from the creativity scholars, as well as supporting my own journey through education on our own unique pathways. It's been really an honor to be a part of it. So
yeah,
thank you.
You well deserved. You totally deserve it. I have one question on here that someone's asking. Kristen's asking, how old are you? And it's also great to see young people who are creatives. You are so inspiring. And you're a genius by Anel.
Well, thank you so much, Christine. I'm 21 years old, and which is a milestone age, right?
Yeah.
21, fully an adult, fully in the world.
Awesome. Well, it was a pleasure having you on here.
Thank you so much.
And so for everyone else on here, if you want more Kayla, check her out on her profile on Project 1324, and also the mods will put a link in the chat, and it's just Adobe/Kayla. So thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, take care.
Thank you, Michelle.
Cool, yeah, totally. It was great to have you.
Thank you.
All right, so up next we have Natalia Seth. Let me get us ready for her. Great. Hi, how's it going? I give you a hug too. Hi. I hope it's not weird on the mics, everyone. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Cool.
So exciting.
So welcome. So how you came into Project 1324 is that we featured Natalia on Project 1324 on Instagram and Facebook, and here's you are on a recent post on our Instagram feed. And you're another prolific artist that you identify, if I'm correct, as a surrealist photographer. Is that correct?
Yeah, I do a lot of like dreamscapes. A lot of my inspiration is like Dali. I say Tim Walker too because he does a lot of like surreal type of photography for Vogue, which is really cool. So yeah.
Awesome. Also, this is your first Max. How's it been? Any highlights you want to share?
It's been amazing. It's been amazing to connect with so many people like me. I've never been surrounded by this many like-minded people all at once.
It's like magic, right?
It's very overwhelming and very amazing at the same time because like I've met so many people that I've like followed for years, and now they're like my peers and my friends, and it's so cool. I really love it.
Awesome. Well, I hope they become lifelong friends. I think that's kind of what happens.
Yes.
Is there anyone in particular that you've met here that like sticks out as like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to like Skype or hang out or have another time that we're going to hang out again?
I don't know. There's not really one person specific, but like
There's been all good.
Yeah, there's so many people because like as an insider, I got to sit around so many people. I just be like, hey, how are you? And then I got to see their work and like who they are, and then I'm just like, oh wait, I follow you. And then it's like that moment, like, wow, we're in real life. We're real life. This is incredible.
I think that's the important part. I think online communities are like online communities are today, but meeting in person is something you just can't replicate, and I think that just takes us over the edge in terms of like human nature.
Yeah.
Well, you said one thing, and maybe the audiences know. What is a Max Insider, and what has that meant for you, like in terms of your experience at Max?
Well, a Max Insider is basically we try to cover the Max experience through our photography or whatever medium we have. So through mine it's like surrealism, and then for other people it's like video or whatever they may choose or have. But yeah, it's through our eyes and ears, and it's really, really cool. It's a great opportunity.
Awesome, cool. Well, let's look at your work. So can you pick a project that best represents your creative process and maybe talk about it a little bit?
Yeah. So
you want to do this one right here? Yeah.
Yeah, that one. So I actually did this one for Project 1324, and it is actually very powerful to me because the meaning behind it is, it means a lot to me. I really, really love color, first off, but I really believe in like branching out, like from your mind, like not just like constraining yourself to like the social norms. So like just branching out and running free with your imagination. So yeah, it's one of my pieces I really love the most.
Awesome. For people on the chat pod, we're happy to take other new questions. I don't see any right now that's related to Natalia's work, but maybe what we can do is we can go in. We're going to take a look at some of your files and how you make your stuff.
Yeah, of course.
So can you tell us, I'm going to open up Photoshop, and let me actually make this bigger. And it'd be really cool if you can just tell us like one of the projects you like recently done that you're most proud of, and maybe talk about how you made it.
Yeah,
sorry, this workspace is a little funny. Give me a second, everyone. It's a little embarrassing having so many people looking at me on my computer.
Photoshop is funky sometimes.
Yeah, so here we go. I'm going to close this. So go for it. And also, maybe make it a little bigger, or maybe leave it the way it is.
Yeah, I can make it a little bigger, but so this is one of my pieces I did recently, actually. My basic workflow is that I have inspiration for really random things. So like, I gain inspiration from like my everyday life. Really odd stuff, just like things that stand out. Like maybe like I see a tree and it's kind of looking funky. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then so just like really weird things. I get a lot of inspiration from color. So like after that, I sketch up my thing, sketch up whatever ideas may come. I actually get a lot of inspiration from my dreams. So
awesome.
Right before,
that makes sense as a surrealist photographer. It should come from your dreams.
Exactly. So yeah, after that I sketch it out, and then I go out and shoot wherever. This one was on a hill near my house, and I just wanted the sky. I didn't want anything distracting in the background. So I got that. I got my yellow raincoat, and I was thinking kind of like complementary colors, so like yellow and purplish and pinkish. So I had the idea of like having smoke come out of my head, kind of like, you know, like a volcano, kind of
Oh,
like that.
I love that.
So I had these flowers with me that I stole from my art room. And then I took it to Photoshop, and then I got this image from Adobe stock, and I started blending it. So let's see, oh, that's the shading.
Someone asked a question, how long have you been using Adobe products?
I started 4 years ago when I was like 14, 13 years old, so like 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then the other question that's kind of related, then we go into it, is are you self-learned?
Yes,
Or what
I am.
inspired you to start doing this type of work?
I am self-taught. I taught myself like from the beginning. My mom had Photoshop, so I just like started clicking buttons. I was like, what does this do? And then like it like delete the entire thing. I'd be like, oh no, how do I didn't know Control Z.
The learning curve is a little steep, but once you
Oh,
get in,
yeah.
you're in, right?
Yeah. And then after that, like I started watching YouTube tutorials, which was like very, very helpful. That was like my teacher basically, besides just clicking buttons.
Do you want to shout out your teacher's name?
Aaron Nace, thank you so much. Flurn is amazing. He owns Flurn, which is like a Photoshop YouTube company, and he has amazing free videos, so definitely check him out if you have the chance. But yeah, he taught me everything I know right now, and yeah. And what was the other question?
Oh, the question was like, now we just tell us more about this work right here.
Oh yeah, okay. So I got this smoke picture from Adobe stock, and this is, so there's a lot of layers to this. It may seem weird just by itself. So the original picture is just me without anything, of course. And then there's like, let's see, I got rid of my hair, so like
Is this a picture of you? Because someone asked, where do you get your models from?
Oh, I do a lot of self-portraits, so a lot of these models are me. That's like who I have most, of course, and then a lot of my friends model for me too.
Great,
So,
awesome.
Yeah, that was before, and this is after. So there was a lot of layers to this. I got rid of the trees. I got rid of my hair, as you can see from that edge. And then I experimented, so like, where's that one?
I saw that layer real
now.
quick, yeah.
So
I
like
think the choice you made was really
experimented.
good. I like the other one better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this one like seemed a little bit too like, I don't know, like Play-Doh-y. So I picked this one.
It's also like, it comes off like a really bright color, and it kind of feels like it sits on top. And I think because you have the gradation, the darker part in the bottom, it really flows from your dark hair and the shadows on your face onto the above it. So like, it feels really cohesive. I think you made a great choice in that one.
Thank you. And then I added, so after that, I just like took the Adobe stock image and I put it on top, and I blended it with my skin, so I'll zoom in. And I did it with like color fill layers, and I masked this entire thing out using like selective brush and like selective mask, and I added shading. Let me see if I can find those layers. There's so many. Yeah, so there's so many layers for shading because that's very important when you're trying to make something look realistic. Shadows, highlights, and then of course the sky, as I told you. What's this part? Oh yeah, that's the sky.
You took out the background because you wanted the person to be just sky, right?
Yeah. So I took out my entire background, and I just clone stamped the entire thing.
Clone Stamp's our friend.
Yeah, it is our friend. Oh, and then look at all my adjustment layers. Oh my gosh, I forgot that many.
While you're looking at all of them, people are saying great stuff about your work. They're saying
Thank
mad
you.
respect, congrats, amazing work, amazing photos.
Thank you. Thank you guys.
They're also requesting that teacher, the person your mentor, to be on Adobe Live. Let's see if we can make that happen.
Oh yeah.
And they also love the fact you're showing the process of your work. So let's keep saying more into it. Or if you also want to go to a different one, or you want to stay on this one, it's up to you.
Yeah. I'll just talk about color really quick. I really, really love color, and I use
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously. I bring it out through my work through like color lookup layers. So let me see if I can find one. So like this one, if I double click on it, I have a lot of like LUTs, which is usually used for video. Yeah, but I use it on my images, and it creates like a very like rich. Let me see what this one is, but it creates like really rich.
It's like the first
color.
filter before filters came out.
Yeah,
the original filter.
Yeah, and so actually I edited this in Lightroom before just to make like micro adjustments to fix the color, and then after I took it into Photoshop. So this is just like on top, layer adjustments on top, on top, on top, and then curves, and yeah. just everything under the sky.
Yeah, Linda Friday says these are great design decisions, and Jan Eric or Jan Eric says I love LUTs, so
yes,
you're in good company.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't see any more questions in the audience, so maybe you want to show off one more piece. We have a couple more minutes left.
Yeah, of course. So I have this one that I also did. This is also a self-portrait, and this was in my basement with my studio light. I have my studio lights that I bought for like 50 bucks on Amazon. So you can get stuff for cheap and still make it look good.
Ours on a budget.
Yes.
I couldn't tell. It looks great.
Thank you. And so I created, the background was originally white, so the wall was originally gray. So I just like colored in the surrounding color with these color lookup layers. So if I got rid of both of these, it's just completely white. And if I just painted it on very like softly, and so it'll look like a very like gradient, like a sun kind of.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah, and so as you see, I have a lot of lookup layers too, or colorful layers, because I was painting the face. So I had actually traced my face before, and then I just started like scribbling. I have a Wacom tablet, so I just like started scribbling and like making like just designs and like, I don't know, little loops. And so, let me see.
People are really appreciating the good tips that you're putting on here instead of Nell saying.
Thank you, thank you. And then I also have a lot of lookup layers, gradient maps. That's another tip, is that I use the gradient maps too on top of lookup layers and adjustment layers. So there's a lot of coloring going on here, but yeah, this one's kind of simple. It's just like coloring the background and then just scribbling the face and just tracing it and then making it come out.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. Is there any like things that you've learned at the Max that maybe get you more excited about color? Because I imagine there was stuff on the day one Max stage that I was like, I can kind of see like the stuff that Daniel Morimoto was showing.
Yeah.
I don't remember the name. It was like mesh layers, something like that. Being able to, how you can control the new features, how you can control the colors. Something you're excited about, or anything else that you're excited about you've learned?
Yeah, so I'm actually trying to get into video, and they were talking about like the color in video.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so that was really
Jason
exciting
Levine
to
was
me.
one that was presenting about that.
Yeah.
In terms of the luminosity palette, I apologize if I'm saying it wrong, but
I think so. Yeah. But yeah, I'm really excited about the color in video and all the sneak peeks that they've been giving us. It's just really exciting to see like the different ways that color can be used.
Yeah.
Because there's just like, it's like endless. Like color can be made into anything. It can like be applied to anything. So yeah.
Cool.
Really excited about that.
I see that Jan Eric or Jan Eric is saying that the Canon looks like very lonely once we interview too.
Oh,
so how's your Max been?
Oh well, her Max has been amazing. She's seen a lot of things. She's been used a lot. She actually went on a shoot today, but yeah. Cool. It's been amazing for her too.
Awesome. I'm really glad that it's no longer lonely for you, and you've also been interviewed in this.
We want to include her too.
Natalia, we've run out of time, but you've been wonderful. Thank you for taking us a little deeper dive into your work and all the different layers, showing us some cool tips. Your work is phenomenal, and I'm looking forward to seeing you grow as an artist. I know we've only met like this week, but I'm looking forward to seeing you over the next couple of years and see what happens. Your future is certainly bright. And if you want to check out Natalia, check out her profile on Project 1324. The mods will put a link in the chat pod. And again, it's just Adobe/Natalia. And also don't forget to follow our Instagram at Escaping Youth. So thank you for having us. And then we're going to have our next guest.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, totally. It was a pleasure. All right, we have next Savannah Rogers. Up next, we have two winners from the TED residency. And here's the first one, Savannah. Hug again. Okay, I just started pattern. Got to keep doing it right. So we have two winners from the TED Residency Challenge, which includes a seat in the fall 2018 TED Residency, which is happening right now. It's a 14-week program at TED headquarters in New York City, and it culminates to a TED Talk. Be on the lookout in December on TED.com to check out the talks from Kemi and Savannah. So you are a passionate, and these are my own words, you are a passionate and dedicated filmmaker, narrative and documentary filmmaker. You like telling rad stories about uplifting marginalized voices, communities, and love telling, and love making surreal comedies featuring queer and trans characters. So I'm looking forward to talking more about your work. But before we get into it, this is also your first Max.
Yes.
What's your favorite part so far?
It's so overwhelmingly cool. It's kind of hard to narrow it down, but I really enjoyed the keynote where it talked about the new Adobe features.
Yeah.
I'm actually really excited.
That was the one on day one.
Yes, and Adobe Jesus talked about color correction, the new color correction tools, and I feel like, you know, that could help me because I'm not an editor, I'm a director, writer, and so to be able to get my hands on to the tools and make it more intuitive is really exciting for me and makes me want to jump in there and start editing some of my own content.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's the same thing Natalia was really excited about too, is also what Jason Levine presented on day one in terms of the new editing color capabilities. I think I remember we talked before this week and you said you're not really a color editor, you're not very comfortable and familiar with, but you felt a little bit, you felt like, oh, this is actually possible now.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the Adobe tools are becoming even more intuitive. I mean, out of all of the, you know, the tools out there for filmmakers and content creators, these are by far the most intuitive, and, you know, they're really making it more accessible to folks like me who don't have a technical background, but have a lot of ideas and really want to put myself out there in that regard. So,
awesome.
Very cool.
Well, great. Who doesn't love Premiere and After Effects, right? So we're thrilled you can join us here at the conference at Adobe Live, and also let's dive in. So I'm going to pull up your submission to the TED Residency Challenge that won.
Cool.
Tell us a little more about the submission, and then also how that, what are you doing in the TED Residency right now?
So, okay, so basically the story of how I submitted to the TED Residency is essentially I saw a Facebook ad 2 days before the deadline while I was in another artist residency back in Kansas City, and I was like, oh, TED has a residency. It couldn't hurt to apply. So I applied the day of the deadline, sent all my content in. I used a screen cap from my latest film, which is called Queen for a Day, the one that you see on screen here. And we really had the, you know, it was a cool opportunity to show, you know, the kinds of stuff that I wanted to make. And so I attached my reel, I attached this thing, and then a month later they got back to me saying, you're a finalist. And then it happened really quickly. I had an interview the same Friday of the week that they told me. The next Monday they said they were going to announce a winner, and then Tuesday I found out that I was one of the winners along with Kemi. So it was super amazing, and I basically had a month to move my whole life to New York. And you know, I'm really just ecstatic to be a part of it, and you know, they're giving me an opportunity to work on my new documentary, which is about the 1997 film Chasing Amy, and its cultural impact on the LGBTQ community and how my personal story intersects with that. And the TED Talk really focuses on what this movie means to me, the kind of representation it gave me as a 12-year-old who had never seen anything gay before, you know, and it was extremely impactful, and I get to, you know, tell this like really powerful story from my own life and then get to move forward with this movie that means so much to me. So I'm stoked.
Awesome. Well, I am looking forward. I'm so glad that you have the opportunity to like be able to have the time and energy and space to be able to spend 14 weeks on this film that you've been really passionate about. And I know I've heard you've been thinking about for a really long time. How long?
Yeah, I was in pre-production in terms of preparation for like a year before. I was just trying to get resources together, reach out to people I knew, and you know, that's pretty limited when you're not from a major metropolitan area or you're not plugged in with all those people. And so the biggest thing that TED has given me, besides a platform to tell my story, is access to all of these resources that mean so much to me and have really helped move the project along.
So I remember when I met you at the TED Residency when it kicked off in early September, that you had one request. Is there a specific person you're looking for your documentary, and maybe you can tell our audience and maybe someone can help you find that person? Oh
yeah, my biggest request for this is to get connected with Kevin Smith, who is the director, writer of Chasing Amy, and everybody's been working very diligently to get me a direct connection with him. And
Daniel says no problem.
Awesome, thank you, Daniel.
I don't know if that's sarcastic or serious, but either way,
appreciate it.
That'd be great. But if anyone else, you know.
Basically to, you know, have the opportunity to properly thank him for this opportunity, but also to really, you know, dive in to talk about the history of this movie. You know, basically if there was a PhD program on Chasing Amy, I would be like Cornell West, you know, and so
you could still do it.
I could still do it.
You could do it through the Adobe Creativity Scholarship Program.
Hey, there we go. That's a great idea. So.
My question is, for some people who are not familiar with the movie Chasing Amy, maybe you can give a quick synopsis so people are familiar with it, since we're going to talk about it a lot.
Oh yeah. So Chasing Amy is a 1997 R-rated rom-com about a straight man who falls in love with a lesbian and their ensuing relationship. And it's been controversial among the LGBT community just because it's an atypical representation of a queer woman, and you know, but it dives into what's really complicated about relationships, love and loss. You know, where fluidity of sexuality happens, and it just rocked my world as a 12-year-old who had never seen a gay movie before. And you know, I didn't know other gay movies existed, and I go into that in the talk. And you know, it was really impactful, and so I'm really grateful that this movie exists, and I just want to explore its legacy because I found, as I've gotten older, that a lot of other queer people feel the same way I do.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Taylor says a really cool comment, and also happy to take questions if anyone has any specific questions on the chat pod. Taylor says, I can't wait to see your movie. You're so inspirational. Thanks for representing the LGBTQIA community so beautifully.
Aw, that's so nice.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Everyone's saying, like, and also people saying go Sav, people saying they
Aw.
love Kevin Smith. Again, if anyone knows the direct connection to Kevin Smith, you can use it for your movie. Do you have a plan in terms of timeline, in terms of like when you think you could, actually you're starting shooting soon, right, for the movie?
Yeah, so in November we're going to start shooting some of the locations used in the movie. Because I'm in New York, it's, you know, really great to be able to just accessibly go to New York or New Jersey to like find a lot of these locations. And we're also in the place where most of these people still live.
Yeah.
And so we've been able to talk to some really cool people behind the scenes and get a lot of history on the film that I didn't know just because of, you know, inaccessibility to the material. So yeah, I'm really excited to be moving forward on it.
Awesome. Maybe we can take a moment for you. Can you talk more about your creative practice as a filmmaker?
Yeah, my creative practice pretty much for the last 4 years has been make whatever you want to at all costs, you know? You know, there hasn't been a lot of money involved, and so it's really been about being resourceful and finding your own resources and teaming up with people who maybe are more knowledgeable than you in a certain area. You know, I'm fresh out of film school, and so what was exciting is that in my hometown of Kansas City, there were so many professionals willing to take a chance on me and really, you know, make some cool stuff with me. And so I've been able to learn from them and through this process, and I'm still learning from all the people at TED, and it's been really cool to learn from all of these incredible different Adobe folks, you know, at this conference. Everybody is so amazing. Kayla, Natalia, Kemi, who's up next. And so my creative practice now is really just focusing in on one project and doing my best to make it as good as it can be with the resources I have, you know, and pretty much relentlessly pursuing it until it's done.
I feel like if I were to use a couple of words to describe you in terms of the short 3 months I've gotten to know you, is that you are so determined and so hardworking and so focused. And I'm so stoked for you to finish the rest of residency. I cannot wait to see your TED Talk. But also, like, I'm really looking forward to for you to be able to take this dream you've had for so long and actually put it into reality. And filmmaking takes a lot of time and work, for sure.
Yes.
And I also want to say one thing that Nicolette says, that she loves all your pins. I also love all your pins. I'm really glad you brought them all out.
Yeah.
Before we end, I'd love if you can tell more of the benefits of the TED residency, how the experience has been for you.
Incredible. So essentially, TED, you know, brought me up, and, you know, they just gave me a lot of resources and access that I didn't have before. They've taught me a lot about public speaking. I've been able to be around 18 other residents who are so incredibly good at their jobs, and it is inspiring to be around them every day. And it's made me more multidisciplinary, you know, just in terms of the way that I think about filmmaking and the way that I want to approach my work. You know, I sit next to this guy named Mohammed Idris, who comes from a tech background. He's making all kinds of really cool stuff, and we're going to team up to do something, you know, after the residency.
That's awesome.
You know, you find collaborators, you find people who are so immensely talented, and it makes you just a better person and not just a better collaborator.
Yeah, when I had the pleasure of being able to meet the TED residents, and they are all so inspiring, and you're right, they're such powerhouses, and from all over the world and different ages and gamuts. And what I heard from most people is what people appreciate the most is really the community.
Yes.
And it's a community that you stay with, it's a community that's there for you, and having access. I'm really glad that Project 1324 has been giving you this opportunity for the TED residency. Short answer, how do you feel about your TED Talk in December? Kind of a big deal, because it's going to be on TED.com.
I'm really jazzed about the TED Talk. I'm in my second draft right now. I got really great feedback from my mentors, Cindy and Katrina, who run the TED residency.
Yeah, they're the best.
Yeah, they're the best. And they've given me really great feedback on it. And now I get to, you know, start, you know, shaving away at it and making sure that it fits within the 6-minute time period that, you know, I'm a little long-winded sometimes, so that'll be an interesting challenge. So yeah, it's going really great, and I'm a little nervous, but I'm also more excited than I am anything else.
Well, you did this. So TED Talk is going to be nothing, right?
Right.
And my biggest advice to you is edit, edit, edit.
Yes.
That's the best advice for your TED Talk.
Awesome.
Awesome. So, so next we're going to have Kemi come on the stage. It was so awesome to have you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to bring on your buddy from the TED residency.
Yes.
Kemi Leani. And, but if you want to know more about Savannah, check our profile on Project 1324. The mods will put the link in the chat pod, but basically it's Adobe/Savannah. Hey Kemi.
Hi Michelle.
Welcome. I actually known you a little bit longer than Savannah because you won a different challenge before, but we're going to talk more about, you've won the TEDx Teen Challenge. But we're going to talk more about the TED Residency Challenge.
Okay.
And I'll tell a little bit about you. You're a multidisciplinary artist that talks about the Black experience and expressed in a multitude of ways. And you tell stories of people outside of the margins and draw upon history, which I love, to be able to talk about today and the future. Yeah, awesome. So I'm so glad that you're here, and you're here at Max. It's also your first time.
Yes, it is.
Do you have any like highlights or favorite moments or favorite parts of your experience at Max?
Just being around so many creative people is so awesome. Kayla, who was up here earlier, is my roommate, so it's awesome talking to her.
I put them together in the room.
She did.
I knew they would get along really well.
Yeah, we spend like staying up to like 2 a.m. talking.
Oh my God, I love that.
About life, but just meeting so many cool artists, it inspires me and it makes me want to like go back home and make a lot of art.
Awesome.
So yeah.
So I'm so glad you were able to sneak away from the TED Residency. Thank you, Katrina and Cindy. I promised them that you'd both come back very inspired and motivated. Also, Katrina is actually on the chat pod right now.
Hi, Katrina.
All explanation points. But also let's dive right in. So tell us about, I'm going to click over here. Tell us about your submission to the TED Residency Challenge and the project you're working on at the TED Residency.
Okay, so the project that I submitted was a photo from a series that I worked on called Jefferson's Ghost.
We're looking at it right now.
Yes, we're looking at it right now. I went to the University of Virginia in Charlottesville. And if people don't know, Charlottesville was the site of the neo-Nazi and KKK rally last year in August. And it also has a history of slavery, and so the architecture of University of Virginia really interests me, and so I'm interested in how the past haunts the present. And so what I did with this series is have someone dressed as an enslaved person and going to different sites around campus, or we call grounds at UVA. And so this photo is the person looking at a Thomas Jefferson statue. And I submitted that for the TED Residency program because I feel like it encapsulates the work that I'm interested in. And so yeah, and so for the residency program, the project that I'm doing is a cinematic dance piece. It's going to combine film and dance, and I'm going to specific
I love
sites.
that you're blending all those things. I can't wait to see it happen.
I love dance. I'm a huge dance enthusiast, so I'm going to specific sites, especially being from the South. I'm from Virginia. And I'm going to sites in Richmond, including an abandoned African-American graveyard, Hampton, which next year is the 400-year anniversary of the first Africans coming to present-day America. So going to that shoreline in Hampton, and they came to Hampton, Virginia. And then in Staten Island, where there was an incidence of police brutality with Eric Garner, and using these spaces and incorporating dance to reclaim these spaces and expose like forgotten histories.
One of my favorite things is that you blend so many different aspects. Like as a multidisciplinary artist, you think about photography and video and film, and also the mods shouted you out that you're also a stand-up comedian, and they put your IG on there. Can I ask you a question? How was last night?
Oh yeah, last night was awesome.
And what was last night?
Last night I went to the Laugh Factory on Sunset Boulevard, and I like stalk their Instagram and social media. So I've always wanted to like perform there. So I did an open mic, and it was really awesome. And
how do you feel about it?
Great.
And you performed at the Laugh Factory. Isn't that kind of a big deal?
Yeah, it was a lot to fit in, like a lot of jokes in like 2 minutes, but it was totally worth it.
Cool, awesome. People are saying really good stuff about your work, saying brilliant. They love the visuals, amazing concept. And also, Voodoo's like a comedian too. Awesome. All the skills. All of you are so talented. So maybe can you tell us more about a project you're working on now?
Yeah. So as I stated before, I'm also a filmmaker. So I'm working, and I also act. So I'm working casually, but I'm working on 2 web series. The first one's called Quicksand, and that'll be out next year. It's a dramedy web series that talks about a Nigerian American woman and how she's rebuilding her life after struggling with addiction. And then the second web series I'm working on is called Seeds. It's a musical comedy web series about the relationship, the romantic relationship between an African American man and an African woman. So I'm really excited about those, and I'm always busy writing and editing, but yes.
I was going to also mention that part of your experience and inspiration is also like your family, when you come from, because if I'm correct, both your parents are from Nigeria?
Yes.
And how's it like, you consider yourself a first generation American, and how does that influence your art and your creative practice?
So yes, being a first generation American, I have like all these different parts of my identity. I'm American, I'm Nigerian, I'm Southern, being from Virginia.
That's true.
So I like to incorporate and investigate all of those things in the disciplines that I work with. So it's a really big part of my life, and I like to just tell stories about like that existing within that hyphen of being Nigerian hyphen American.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Thank you for sharing. That's so awesome. What's the follow-up question is for Quicksand, the series that you're working on, when can people expect to see it, or what's a timeline if you have one, or like what is your aspirations for the future for that project?
So the timeline, we're hoping for a late spring, early summer release for that.
For next year?
Yes, 2019.
That's exciting, that's cool.
Yes.
Stay tuned.
Yes, stay tuned.
And also the moderators put the link to the chat pod so people can check it out themselves and keep
Okay.
track of the project.
Okay, awesome.
If anyone has any questions in the chat pod, happy to take them. But maybe what I can ask you is, what are some of the benefits of the TED residency has been for your creative practice and your work?
Well, I think that being a creative and an artist, community is very important. So being around so many amazing people, the people in the residency that are scientists and farmers and business owners. So it's really incredible being around so many people of different backgrounds, and it inspires me to, one, continue working harder, but also just it refreshes me. So I love being around so many people, and being in New York City. It's definitely not Virginia, so there are always things happening, and just the pace of the city is really exciting.
Yeah, when I first met you, it was like kind of like big-eyed. You only been in the city for less than a week, and it was very overwhelming.
Yeah.
What do you think about New York City compared to back home, and is it somewhere you would want to stay, or is you're good with the visit, or?
I really love New York. I do.
I know. Yeah, it's the best.
I feel like the other day I felt like such a New Yorker. I had like 3 bags of groceries while eating a hot dog while walking to the subway. So I'm like, yes, I'm finally a New Yorker, and I know where I'm going now.
Awesome, because I remember when I first met you, you were like, where do I get groceries from? And I was like, oh, that is a very good question. It's a nightmare.
Yeah.
And also you also were like, I'm running out of data because I'm using my map all the time, so I'm so glad you're feeling comfortable.
Yeah.
But here's another question. How is it having like a seat at the TED residency, like you're actually in the TED headquarters? Like how is that experience for you to be like, feel like you can be able to focus? Because one thing that's been really great is you've been able to put your studies aside to be able to focus on this project, right?
Yeah. I don't even know how to describe it. It's TED, so I used to watch TED Talks in college, and so being able to give one is like so surreal, and it's like a dream. So again, it's just being around so many amazing, incredible people that are they're experts at their craft. So I love it. I feel like I'm growing every day as an artist and becoming better, and yeah, it's just a great experience, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
I am so thrilled that we can be able to give you this opportunity. And also, speaking of craft, Dan, I don't know if I'm your right name right, but Dan Productions is asking what Adobe products do you use when you create?
I'm such a Premiere stan. I love Premiere. I've been going to a lot of Premiere sessions. So Premiere is the primary thing.
And those sessions are here at Max, right?
Yes, at Max. So Premiere is the primary thing that I use. I also use Photoshop for my photography work, but definitely Premiere.
Awesome, cool. And the other question, which is totally random and not related, but kind of is what's your favorite place in New York so far that you've been to?
Ooh, that is a great question. Honestly, my room. I feel like I'm always out and about, like doing so many things, whether it's like, oh, like I'm gonna go do comedy, or I'm like gonna go to an art museum. So I'm an extrovert, but I like my time by myself. So anytime I can like go to sleep and watch like Pride and Prejudice, because that's one of my favorite films.
Of course,
the Keira Knightley version, and like eat chips. Like I love being in my room.
Cool. Another segue from another question is, what are your favorite places to be creative at?
That's a great question. I like being outdoors. Being in open spaces does something for me. So whether it's just taking a walk, that really helps me clear my mind. Back at school, when I used to go to the University of Virginia, there was this great like little lake with a trail, and I would walk it all the time just to like clear my mind. So that, and definitely going to art galleries and museums, just being around other artists and just staring at these people who are like ingrained in our canon as being like the best, that inspires me. And they had way less than I do now, so I'm like, if they did it, I can do it too.
Yeah, for sure. Also, people are telling you some great feedback, Amber is saying you're smart, you're going to make it, go for it,
Thank
Kemi. Let's see what else people are saying. Goodell says cool. But yeah, people are saying nice things about what you're doing. So thank you so much. Before we go, we have a couple minutes left. I want to ask you, what are like other benefits the TED residency has been able to give you in terms of in terms of the experience? Like, what are the biggest takeaways? What are you looking forward to the most? And also, maybe you can talk about your TED Talk and how you're feeling about that preparation.
Okay. Well, I think just being able to meet people. I mean, we talk about like the 5 degrees of separation, and like at TED, it's like 2 degrees. Like everyone knows someone who knows someone who knows someone. So it's really great, like people that I have admired. For example, I love dance, and a choreographer I admire, Camille A. Brown, who also was a TED Fellow. I love her. I like stalk her on Instagram, and so I was able. Someone in the residency was able to put me in connection with her to just talk to her. So I've talked to her about my project and dance and choreography. So that's been amazing so far. So yeah, TED, like 2 degrees of separation.
Awesome. Well, before we go, one quick question: how did you hear about Project 1324? And that question's from Kevin Lee.
Okay, Kevin. I heard about Project 1324. When I was still in college. I think I was like a second year or third year in school, and the Sundance Ignite Challenge happened, and I studied film in school, and so I applied for that, and through being a part of Project 1324, I learned about other opportunities. So last year with TEDx Teen, and this year with the TED Residency Program. So Project 1324 is awesome. If you haven't like been connected with it, like stay connected with it. They really believe in amplifying the voices and the work of young people.
Awesome. And also lots of compliments on your outfits, your earring.
Thank you.
So they're doing a great job. Well, awesome. I'm so glad to have you. Thank you so much, Kemi.
Thank you, Michelle.
I look forward to seeing you. This is our last day together. I look forward to hanging out more.
Yes.
So thank you, Kemi.
Thank you.
So we can't wait. I can't wait to see both their TED Talks, both Savannah and Kemi. Again, check them out on TED.com in December. You can also check out all the TED residents who are all also inspiring. People are creatives to scientists to mathematicians and so forth. And alas, our segment is coming to an end. But if you want more about Kemi, again, go to Project 1324. Also, moderators put in the chat pod. The link is just going to be Adobe/Kemi. But again, thank you for joining us and checking out all these incredible artists. And also you can find them on project1324.com, and we can't wait to see you again on Adobe Live. Thanks for having us. You've been a super great audience, and stay tuned. We'll be back in about 5 minutes with a live illustration with Pernell Aram. Bye everyone. Thank you so much.